Hello you dirty frogs, let's get today's video started off by commenting 3 things you love about Amon. Challenge impossible. And welcome back to a new video on the channel. You may be here from my video on the SLOPPENHEIMER, or you might just be here because, well, you want the evil frogman to give you the SLOPPENHEIMER. Today I'm going to be showing you my new Amon build for UVH6. This is an ordnance focused build, and much like most of my builds, it's a one gun build because I know that that is easiest and most fun for most people. So this is a pretty much one gun Amon ordnance build for UVH6 that will clear all content, of course. I didn't do an intro montage, so I'll just quickly go ahead and show you the power of this build. It is pretty disgusting and pretty much carried by one gun entirely. If Gearbox ever nerf it, I will cry many tears. And as you guys can see, this build is absolutely disgusting. That was with just 2 shots, and you can basically do this to every single boss in the game. Now, some caveats before we get started with this build: it does not work for Bounty Pack 2. Why? Because for some reason the yellow Ordnite enemies in Bounty Pack 2 cannot be targeted by the ordnance we are using. You can blame Gearbox for that, not me. I am sorry, but this build quite literally will not do Bounty Pack 2. And you know what? I'm just at peace with it. I'm just rolling with it. Go and complain to Gearbox and maybe they'll fix it. So let's get started by getting into the skill tree. We're of course at level 60 in Borderlands 4 now, so we have a lot more to work with. By the way, peep the Dr. Doom drip. I hope you like that. I think it's really cool. We're going to start off in the red tree here. We have 5 points into what burns within for incendiary damage. We also get bonus fire damage while we're in onslaught, which is nice, so this benefits that. Then we have 5 points into tritanium, which will boost our skill damage, which does help stuff like Tail of the Comet. Then we have 1 point into gut punch, which is going to weaken enemies when we hit them with our ordnance. We've got 5 points into catastrophe, and then we have fulminating fist as our augment. Now into the green tree, we just have 5 points into Executioner for the free crit damage. And then into the blue tree here, we have 5 points into Scorched Kairos, 5 points into Battleborn, 5 points into Tail of the Comet, 5 points into Ancient Ways, 5 points into Icy Rage, 1 point into Primal Surge, 3 points into Age of Ice, and 5 points into Blackout. I did try and play around with some other skill combos for this build, and I'm sure there are some which are maybe better just by a hair, but overall this is the spec that I've just been comfortable running with. I did play around with doing stuff like Dragon's Breath and Electrical Fire, but I don't really think it's needed that much. This works just fine for me. Into our specializations right here, we are running the best defense for 30% free damage. We're running fragmentation and full spectrum because this is a major boost to our ordnance. And lastly, we're also running bullet train. Although you can play around with this, you can go within the zone if you really want, or even riddle you this, but I would not recommend it. Just go with bullet train. I also did play around with compounding afflictions, even though it's bugged and only works for shock damage because we are doing shock with the What's for Dinner, but I don't know if it's really that worth running. I just don't think so. So, I mean, maybe you can test this out and get back to me. I'm going with bullet train for the time being. Now, into our items, let's go through this. First and foremost, let's talk about the firmware we're going to be using. We're going to be going 3 skillcraft and 2 high caliber. To my knowledge, I can't see any benefit of doing high cal 3 with this build. It seems as though my kill speeds are basically identical with and without it, but if you find anything with this ordnance that works with high cal here and that makes sense, then go ahead, but I just can't. So we're doing 2 high cal, 3 skillcraft. For your main gun, feel free to run literally anything you want. I'm doing the roulette. You're not going to be using guns with this build. Your main driver is going to be your ordnance, but if you need to break some Ordnite orbs or whatever it may be, then just go with something cool. The roulette's pretty nice. I've also got in here the Crow Source, which comes from the new DLC. The mantra works really well on this build as well, which is interesting. There's a bunch of stuff you can run which should just work fine for you. Into our rep kit, I'm doing a purple rep kit with amp and elemental affinity, but to be honest, I personally am really interested in trying out the idea of a triple bypass with elemental affinity or triple bypass with amp. Feel free to play around there, but this is what I've got right now. Into our class mod, we're running the Icebringer class mod here. Now, I have 5 out of 5 Tail of the Comet, but not everyone is going to be able to get that. Obviously, this is an ultra min-max, probably a god roll of this class mod. Do not worry about getting 5 out of 5. just try and get as many points into Tail of the Comet as you can, and at the very minimum go for Ancient Ways. But as you can see, I of course just have an insane roll here. For your passives, go for, of course, ordnance damage. Gun damage is also fine to get. Ordnance crit chance really good, and skill crit chance. Anything of the above will work here. Into our shield, we're using the What's for Dinner, and we're using Siphon on the What's for Dinner. The reason we're doing Siphon is because we can't get down naturally to Ballistic Bulwark, and because of our class mod choice, it kind of limits us there due to what skills we want. So we've got Siphon on the What's for Dinner so that we'll get over shield when we damage, which will then naturally proc the What's for Dinner's bonus shock damage. For my enhancement, I am running literally anything. It does not matter. I guess this is going to depend on your main gun. For me, I'm just running an enhancement with gun damage and gun crit damage, but don't really worry too much here, although the gun damage will naturally feed into your ordnance, so try and at least get that. And the last item in the build that we're going to talk about is, of course, the Sloppenheimer, the Heimdall. This is new from DLC 2, and it is by far, if you've watched my previous video on it, if you haven't, the link is in the description. This, in my opinion, is the best rocket ordnance in the game right now. There are some very, very strong contenders, but this one is such a no-brainer. It's the AFK ordnance, and it is what carries this build. You might as well just go ahead and call this Sloppenheimer Amon, because this is the gun that carries this entire build. It is disgusting. Alright, so how do you play this build? Well, it's very simple. Because of Primal Surge, the only real mechanic you really need to pay attention to is your ammo count. The way that Primal Surge is going to work is when we apply a status effect, there's a chance to restore ammo. That is how we get basically infinite ammo on this ordnance. So if we need the infinite ammo, we can, you know, use it like that. Some bosses have a second phase, which is why that is required. So go into whichever boss fight it is, pop your rep kit, pop your action skill, swap to the Sloppenheimer, and then take a shot. Some enemies will only take one shot, like this. Others, you might need a few more, but very rarely is that actually the case. But just be sure that if you're spamming this, you're making sure to give your Primal Surge a chance to give you some extra ammo. I will say if you're struggling with ammo, feel free to take some points out of Ancient Ways and put some more into Primal Surge. It's something I've considered doing, because sometimes I do get a little careless with it and end up running out of ammo. But so long as you're paying attention, it should not be a problem for you. Alright, so into a little extended gameplay showcase here for you dirty little frogs. We're at Big Oil in the new DLC, which is I feel like some people are probably going to struggle with this. Maybe this isn't the best place to showcase it, but regardless, I just want to show you some of the destruction that goes down with this build. So again, I'm going to drop in here in a mobbing encounter. Now, I will say that mobbing is the most low effort thing to do with this build. It's actually bossing, which is more difficult, if anything. But even, again, you know, bossing is not a problem. But you can see what the gameplay looks like here. Oh, hell no, bro, geek, and look at that. But this is the entire gameplay of the build. Like, again, this is how the evil frogman gets his next targets and just takes them away. It's so extremely easy. This weapon shoots homing rockets that just... it turns every encounter into AFK land. The only thing you actually have to do and actually have to worry about is shooting your weapon, and that is literally it. Like, actually, one of the biggest threats I will say with this build is that because you need to apply a status effect with Primal Surge for, you know, to get the ammo back, if you don't, you know, take long enough to kill the target, sometimes you just can't get any ammo back. And that can be a problem for obvious reasons, right? Like, you're killing stuff so fast with this build that you don't even have a chance to get ammo back. So I just really wanted to put this build together because this gun is so easy to use, and of course Amon is who is going to use it the best, or at least I would think to begin with. Also, since I know that people are going to ask about it, I will show you guys what this build does to Bloom Reaper. Now, a quick heads up, I mentioned earlier how this build just does not go after the yellow vial enemies in Bounty Pack 2. It also has a problem with Bloom Reaper, where it does not like to go after any of the orbs from the crystals when you break them. So if you're going to do Bloom Reaper with this build, which I assume you will, just be aware that one of the things you're going to have to do is at some point swap away from your ordnance to kill the orbs from the crystals yourself, because this gun unfortunately will not target those. It's just an unfortunate bug. but it is what it is. So you will have to get, like I said, some kind of primary weapon that's going to do that for you, and it doesn't really matter what that is, just so long as it works, right? So in my case, I'm just using a roulette to do it, and yeah, that's how Bloom Reaper works. And from here, I'm sure you know what's going to happen. Really, the biggest thing with this build is just making sure that if you're going to put your ordnance away at any point, or even if you're not going to put your ordnance away, that you always have max ammo on it. That is just the most important thing. But apart from that, again, the gameplay is very, very easy with it. It's just literally spamming rockets and watching things die over and over again. That is the loop of it. That is all you do. And as you can see in the case of Bloom Reaper, it works exactly the same here. So yeah, it's just pretty insane. Again, it just sucks that this game has problems with tracking on enemies, and yeah, it's just really unfortunate. I wish that wasn't a problem, but unfortunately, I think it's something that we are going to be forever stuck with, unless Gearbox finally get around to fixing it. Unfortunately, we missed the platinum by 1 second there. But yeah, this build is very, very easy, and it's the perfect build for the followers of the Evil Frogman to use. If you want the written build guide for this, it's down in the description down below on Mobilex. Otherwise, go ahead and copy this into your game, have a good time with it, and let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And if you have any suggestions for Aimer builds, let me know. Also, I'll be doing an updated build video to my Chud Aimer build, which I put out, which is more of a gun-focused Aimer. That's going to be coming real soon as well, so stay tuned for that. And boys, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for the support, and I'll check you all in the next one.